Hi there. So, in our Writing Cave Patreon group, we had a question come up that I'm going to address here, and that is how can you promote a new book and market your existing books on a super limited budget? And so, I am going to throw out some ideas for you today of low budget book launching. This can also really anything you do to launch your book, you can also do to market your book. So, I'm going to basically use them interchangeably. Don't feel like you have to have a brand new book to do some of these strategies. So, one caveat before we start off that is that even if it is a free book marketing option, that doesn't mean it's not costing you something. The biggest thing it's probably going to cost you is time. So, I'm also going to talk to you about yes, this is going to save you money, but it might be costing you some time. So, I will let you know just how effective each of these strategies are, and then like how much time you can expect to expend. And that's the other kind of warning I want to give is don't feel like you need to do every single one of these things for every single book. I'm going to throw out lots of ideas to you, and you can sort of pick and choose what feels like a good option for you. So, one really popular way to market your books that doesn't cost you any money, it will cost you some time to organize, is a newsletter swap. That is where you ask other authors in your genre, will you please share about my new release or my 99-cent book or my book funnel link? And in return, most of the time you're agreeing, at least verbally, to do something for them as well. The next time you have a book launch, let me know and I'll let my list know about it. Things like that. Totally free. It does take some time to set up. One caution is that you always want to make sure you're staying very much within your genre. So maybe your very best friend writes steamy romance and you write clean and wholesome westerns. Even if that author is your best friend, it's probably not the best mixing those two audiences. You really want to stick to audiences who are very similar to you. I would not recommend going to people that are, the number one bestseller in that category who have never heard about you. It's probably going to make more sense to stick with mid-list authors, especially if they are authors that you know or you have a mutual friend. Lots of people don't like this tactic, myself included, even though I am sharing it. And for a couple reasons. I don't really like the cold call. I also don't like feeling obliged to somebody. And I certainly don't want to feel obligated to share about somebody else's book if I haven't read it. I'm really, really careful not to recommend books to my newsletter list if I haven't read them. So those are a few things to be careful about. And sometimes readers can find this annoying. So it is totally free. It takes a little bit of time to set up. It can be somewhat effective, but there are a couple cons to it that you just want to watch out for and maybe not overdo it. I still think it's a valid strategy if you're just starting out and have nowhere else to go and you need like something to give your career a kickstart. Another free option is a book funnel promotion. This is where you write a short story or a novella, you upload it on BookFunnel, and people can download your book in exchange for joining your newsletter list. And so this is a really good way to grow your newsletter list. Takes a ton of time because you've got to come up with the lead magnet, but let's say you've already got something in your backlist that you can use. It's just a little bit of work getting the book funnel page set up, getting the book formatted the right way. And then what you can do is you can organize or you can browse through the list of book funnel promotions. And so what that will be is here's 12 historical romances that you can download for free from 12 different authors, and the readers will sign up for those authors' email lists if they want to be involved. So a really good way to grow your email list, which can be a good long-term strategy. It's not going to give you immediate results. And so it's not like you're going to set up your book funnel page, do a promotion for a week, and get 100 new newsletter subscribers and $500 in book sales, right? It takes time to turn those newsletter subscribers into paid customers and paid readers. So this one does take a lot of time, and the effects probably won't be seen immediately. If you really need to have a big bang right now, then what I recommend is if you do one of these book funnel promotions, that you have an automated sequence where you are telling the people who downloaded your free book why they need to buy your next book. So I did this once when I went from suspense to I started a new romance series. And so I created a lead magnet. I gave that away to a bunch of people for free as an incentive to join my newsletter list. But I made sure that as soon as those people who downloaded that free romance joined my list, I gave them multiple emails telling them why they should buy my new romance release. So that's how you would be very mindful about turning people who get your freebie into paid customers, as opposed to just collecting people's email addresses. Next thing that you could do would be some type of giveaway. So this is basically free, other than sometimes you pay for the prize that you give out at the end. Your incentives can be things like share this post, right, about my book, and that can get some viral word of mouth. There are a couple cautions to be aware of. One is you want to make sure that the prize correlates to the genre. So I wouldn't say your giveaway prize should be a $500 gift card to Amazon, right? First of all, because we're talking about free and cheap. But let's say you've got an unopened Kindle lying around that you're not going to use, and it's one of the high-end Kindles. I wouldn't even use that. I would stick with something that's only going to appeal to people who are interested in your genre. So maybe this is, signed paperbacks of your books. Maybe this is a goodie bag of, books from other authors that you're going to gift to the winners. Something that keeps it pretty genre specific is going to be best. As incentives, you can have people join your newsletter list, and same as what we said before about doing a book funnel promo. You can have people join your newsletter list, but that's not effective in the short term unless you're really, really specifically asking them to buy one of your books. But giveaway can be good for word of mouth. If you've got, 50 rabid fans and they can recruit 3 more readers each, that's a good way to grow your base. So for giveaways, I'm going to call this one not super time intensive, not super expensive. Effectiveness, it's not probably going to be the one thing that's going to launch somebody to bestseller status, but it can definitely be incorporated into a low budget launch strategy, and you can get some good, some good traction there. So the next thing that some authors will do, and this is what I'm probably not going to recommend, with, again, just a couple caveats, is just posting in reader Facebook groups or just using social media. There are some great ways to use social media, but in order to become a real expert at using social media, and I'm not talking about the paid ads like Facebook ads, I'm talking about like growing a Facebook group or growing a following on Instagram and turning those into book readers. That is a very long-term strategy because it takes time to build and nurture that audience. So some of us say, oh, well, it's free, I can just start a Facebook group or something like that. But the time involved to do it really, really well is going to mean that for most of us, it's not going to be hugely impactful, right? If you have already a social media following, and if you have a social media platform that you adore, let's say you adore Pinterest, and you've been curating Pinterest lists in your genre for years anyway, well, by all means, you've got the base set up. But if you're starting from total scratch and you don't even have a base set up, honestly, I would not rely on any social media strategies as a way to get free marketing visibility, because the social media trends change a ton, and it takes time to build that base, and to make a quick and effective splash usually is going to involve things like ads or a kind of high-end marketing strategy for growing that group. Like, people pay thousands of dollars to get tens of thousands of people to join their Facebook group. It really doesn't fit quite into things that we're looking for low budget and effective and getting results quick. All right. So I'm not saying don't build social media followings. I'm saying don't lump this into your launch strategy for thinking that you'll, set up a Facebook account for a new pen name and 10 days later have, an effective following that you can market to. It is something that I think can be recommended. I just don't think that it's going to turn into something that will fall into the category of a launch strategy because it's way more long term than that. A better option is to use social media to network with authors in your genre. That's what I highly recommend, as opposed to just like the worst thing you can do is just join a bunch of groups for sci-fi writers, excuse me, or sci-fi readers and just post, here's my book, buy it, right? That's not really going to be effective for nearly anybody. But what you can do is use social media to build strong networking relationships with other authors in your genre. And then that opens up a whole lot of possibilities. So the newsletter swaps, asking people to promote your book to their social media following, doing even like anthologies, box sets. Most of the time those get organized through Facebook or networking things like that. So please don't think that I'm saying don't spend time on social media. I'm just saying don't expect to snap your fingers with a brand new book or a brand new pen name, create a Facebook account, and all of a sudden have a ton of readers or things like that. Great for networking though. And let's see what other things are on my list. Okay, so the other thing that we can talk about. So those are the ones that are, more in the free or pretty close to free. Like for example, I think to use BookFunnel, you need to get their paid service, but it's not going to break the bank. Let's talk really quick about if you're a writer on a budget and you want to do a tiny bit of paid ads, what should you use? I'm going to suggest most people start with Amazon ads because they don't spend much money. In fact, by the time you're ready to spend more money on Amazon, you might even get frustrated because they don't spend your money enough. Facebook ads is a total opposite extreme. They'll spend your money whether your ads are effective or not. So if you want something kind of cheap, kind of easy, something you don't need to throw tons of money into for testing, I recommend Amazon ads. I'm not saying don't do Facebook ads. Both Amazon ads and Facebook ads you can set low budgets for. Facebook, though, can sometimes require more testing, more tweaking, and things like that. BookBub ads are kind of right in the middle. You're able to run them for low budgets. They take a little bit of testing, but not necessarily as much as Facebook. So they're kind of in the middle in terms of like how cheap and effective and time extensive they are. In general, I usually recommend a beginner start with Amazon ads just to get their toes in. There are going to be tons of exceptions to that, but that's where I would start. You can always set really, really, really low budgets. You can use portfolio caps and tell Amazon like only spend $50 this month across all of my ads. So that's another way that you can kind of dip your toes into it without breaking the bank. So hopefully that gave you some ideas. Like I said, you don't need to jump in and do every single one of these things right now, but I hope it gave you just some food for thought to get your ideas flowing, and we'll talk later.